miles away called Taft, Texas. And at the time, she said that when she was in middle school, she was speaking Spanish to a friend of hers, and they both were sent home for speaking Spanish in school. That was a no-no. You couldn't do that. So she said that she did not want me or my brother going through the stigma of being able to speak Spanish. So, and keep in mind, this is the bilingual coordinator for Gregory Portland Independent School District. Her own kids, no. So, crazy. I actually learned Spanish, afterwards, but all the bad stuff. And even when it came down to school, her high school guidance counselor told her, you're a looker. Hispanic girls don't usually finish their coursework. Don't go to school. Just go to beauty school, be a cosmetologist, or better yet, get married. That was the advice. So she did get married. She went to school. She got her degree, became a teacher. And in 1991, we moved from Gregory Portland to Irving, Texas, where my mom became the first Hispanic administrator in the history of Irving ISD. So, yeah. My mom also gave me the love of reading. At the time, I hated her for it because it wasn't a gift. We had a door-to-door salesman come over and sell us a whole set of Encyclopedia Britannicas. Or actually, it was World Book Encyclopedia. Gold and tan. Oh, y'all the same mom. All right. So, while she was going to school in the summer one year, I was challenged by her to read the encyclopedia from A to Z. She said it as a joke to keep me occupied because I was doing something I shouldn't have been doing. I took her up on it and I did. So that's my love of reading. The third thing actually, my high school English teacher named Marilyn Tucker saw something in the way I wrote, and she sat me down after class one day and just this was a freshman English class, and she shared with me the works of Kipling, John Cheever, and Ernest Hemingway, and said, go learn all you can, write. So when I met my wife, while we were dating, her first gift to me was this Mont Blanc Legrand pen. I've had it ever since. So, for those of you that don't know my wife, she works for the firm. Nelson kind of alluded to it. And a funny story about how, opportunities are always knocking, you just gotta be on the lookout. We met at the firm we both worked at before coming to Chase, and I learned who Rita was because we had both applied for a job, and I learned that I did not get the position by watching her celebrate that she had. And I remember looking over to a buddy of mine and saying, that's the one that stole my job. So 2 years later, I got back at her and married her. 5 years later, I really got back at her because our old firm was Ford Credit, and they were moving operations to Nashville, and we were given the option to move to Nashville or stay here. I wanted to stay here. And so we both started looking. She had more time vested with the company, so she decided to wait it out. I started looking, but she just tossed her name in the hat at Chase. It was at Royal Ridge off of Beltline and 114, that big blue office where Capital One was. And I don't know if y'all know, maybe I should, Siraj Joseph was the guy that interviewed me. So I was Siraj's first interview of the morning and Rita was his last. So we finished up the interview and Siraj goes, hey, this is rather unorthodox, but do you know Rita Escamilla? I was like, yeah. Told him the story and he's like, wow. Y'all know Siraj's accent, wow, dude. That was what I got from Siraj. And so about a week later, I get the call, I got the job. So yeah, payback. Found out about 2 years later, Siraj walked up to me and he goes, "Hey, you know, it came down to you and Rita that day." And I said, "Really?" I said, "How'd you decide?" He pulls a quarter out of his pocket. I don't know if that's good or bad, but yeah. The last thing I have is an old wrench. And it's actually my grandfather's from his old toolbox. And this is for the men that I've had in my life that helped shape me. My parents were divorced when I was 5, so Dad wasn't around too much. It was an ugly divorce. He moved to Houston afterwards. We were still in Corpus Christi, and you know, they say that it takes a village to raise a child, and that village came in mass. I had a next door neighbor named Ernest Moore, who was a retiree. He was an electrician who had retired, and he saw me out there one day struggling with my bicycle, had a flat tire. He looked out the window, came out there, we took the bike into his workshop, he showed me everything. We tore that bike apart, put it back together. Years later, he was the guy that took me out to go buy a suit for my first formal event, my first homecoming. Taught me how to tie a tie, how to be a gentleman. It was Ernest Moore. The other one was Dean Meeker. He was my best friend's father, he taught me how to work with my hands. He was a welder. Taught me how to build things, how to take things apart, how to defend myself, how to stand up for myself. And one of the things he would always tell me, and it's something that carries on today, and it's something that was mentioned earlier in the morning session, was he would always say, "How's your job going?" "Oh, it's going great, Dean." He's like, "Do you have passion for it?" "Yeah." He goes, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'll tell you what," because if there's ever a day that you wake up and you're not excited to go to work, walk away. It goes for everything. Work, hobbies, relationships, friendships, whatever. If it doesn't make you happy, if you don't have passion for what you're doing, stop. Because you're doing yourself a disservice and you're doing the other person a disservice as well. My grandfather, where the wrench came from, he was a giant of a man. My grandfather, Genesio Adami, was he was a Karankawan Indian. I mean, he was when I say a giant of a man, he was a giant of a man. He was 6'2", probably 270 pounds, just a big guy. But he was the friendliest guy in the world. Never met a stranger really. He treated everyone like family. And the thing that he would always tell me, CEO to janitor, treat them all the same. He was networking before networking was a thing. We would cruise around the streets of Taft, Texas, and he would make his weekend stops. You know, he'd stop by the airport, talk to the pilot, stop over to the gas station, talk to the mechanics. Everyone around town knew who he was because he took the time to cultivate those relationships. And that's something that it stuck with me. And the last person is, so y'all said y'all know where Corpus Christi is and Portland is. The last one was Coach Ray Akins. He actually holds a record for the most winningest Texas football coach in Texas high school football history. He was an old Marine who fought in the Pacific during World War II, but you would never guess it. The guy had a heart of gold until you were on his practice field. And then he would treat you like dirt, like everyone else. In the summers though, before I actually played for him, I was about 7, 8 years old. His grandsons would come and visit every summer, religiously. Grady and Drew. And they'd come over, Coach would load us up in his old F-100 pickup, green and white. We'd go over to Wildcat Stadium, and we'd have a run of the place. We would be running up and down the stadium. We'd go into the field house, mess around with the weights, you know, watch old film reels. And we'd come back, and his wife Virginia would have the most amazing, you know, meals prepared for us. After that, Coach would put on old records, and we'd listen to the craziest old songs. And one of them was really kind of prophetic because it was a song called "The Battle of New Orleans" by a guy named Johnny Horton. And for some reason, I just remember we all just marched around. It had like a military type beat, you know, dun 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 type thing. So Grady, Drew, and I would march around his living room, you know, with these pretend rifles like we were in the military. And I said it was very prophetic because it was the Battle of New Orleans. I'm not a big sports fan at all. I don't watch football. The last football game I watched was probably the last game I played in. And so imagine my surprise in 2009 when I get a frantic phone call from my mom, and she's like, "Are you watching the Super Bowl?" I said, "No, why?" And she goes, "Because the kid that you used to run around in your underoos with in the back of Coach Aikens' yard playing on the slip and slide just happens to be leading the Saints to their Super Bowl victory." So that was pretty cool. That's all I got. Thank you very much for allowing me to share.
Thanks, Joe. All right, we're going to keep things rolling. Wendy Nelson.